Dear friends, our salutations to Swamiji. We have been following his talks on Jnanyoga. We have covered so far 11 speeches of Swamiji. Last one we dealt with as a part of the cosmos, two aspects, the microcosm and the macrocosm. Today we will be talking about another talk which he delivered in America, the topic of which is the immortality. What is immortality? Swamiji is building up the whole subject in a very systematic way and trying to answer all these questions, what is there in our mind and what will be expected of this. Swamiji is saying, what question has been asked a greater number of times? What idea has laid main more to search the universe for an answer? What question is near and dear to the human heart? What question is more inseparably connected with our existence than this one, the immortality of the human soul? In fact, we all talk about immortality. We talk about keeping the present in happy mood forever and ever. We should not die. What is the thing? He is saying, it has been the theme of poets and sages, of priests and prophets. Kings on the throne have discussed it. Beggars in the street have dreamt of it. The best of humanity have approached it, and the worst of men have hoped for it. The interest in the theme has not died out yet, nor will it die so long as human nature exists. Various answers have been presented to the world by various minds. Thousands again, in every period of history, have given up the discussion, and yet the question remains fresh as ever. Often in the turmoil of the struggle of our lives, we seem to forget it. But suddenly someone dies, one, perhaps whom we loved, one near and dear one to our hearts, is snatched away from us by death. And the struggle, the din, and the turmoil of the world around us cease for a moment, and the soul asks the old questions. What after this? What becomes of the soul? All human knowledge proceeds out of experience. We cannot know anything except by experience. All our reasoning is based upon generalized experience. All our knowledge is but harmonized experience. Looking around us, what do we find? A continuous change. This is very important. The plant comes out of the seed, grows into a tree, completes the circle and comes back to the seed. The animal comes, lives a certain time, dies and completes the circle. So does the man. The mountains slowly but surely crumble away. The rivers slowly but surely dry up. Rains come out of the sea and go back to the sea. Everywhere circles are being completed. Birth, growth, development and decay following each with a very clear, precise, mathematical precision. This is our everyday experience. Inside of it all, behind all this vast mass of what we call life, of millions of forms and shapes, millions upon millions of varieties, beginning from the lowest atom to the highest spiritualized man, we find existing a certain unity. Every day we find that the wall that was thought to be dividing one thing, another is being broken down. And all the matter is coming to be recognized by modern science as one substance, manifesting in different ways and in various forms. The one life that runs through all like a continuous chain, of which all these various forms represent the links, link after link, extending almost infinity, but of the same one chain. This is what is called evolution. It is an old idea, as old as human society. Only it is getting fresher and fresher as human knowledge is progressing. There is one more thing which the ancients perceived, but which in modern times is not yet so clearly perceived, and that is involution. In fact, we have seen these two things of evolution and involution Swamiji has spoken about in his earlier talks on the cosmos. This, again, Swamiji is saying, the seed is becoming the plant, a grain of sand becomes a plant, it is a father that becomes a child, a lump of clay never becomes a child. From what does the evolution come is the question. What was the seed? It was the same as the tree. All the possibilities of future tree are in that seed. All the possibilities of future man are in the little baby. All possibilities of any future life are in the germ. What is this? The ancient philosophers of India called it involution. We find then that every evolution presupposes an involution. Nothing can be evolved which is not already there. Here again, modern science comes up to our help. You know by mathematical reasoning that the sum total of energy that is displayed in the universe is the same throughout. You cannot take away one atom of matter or 1 foot-pound of force. You cannot add to the universe one atom of matter or 1 foot-pound of force. As such, evolution does not come out of zero. Then, where does it come from? From previous evolution. The child is the man involved, and the man is the child evolved. The seed is the tree involved, and the tree is the seed evolved. All the possibilities of life are in the germ. The problem becomes a little cleaner and clearer. Add to it the first idea of continuation of life. From the lowest protoplasm to the most perfect human being, there is really but one life. Just as in one life we have so many various phases of expression, the protoplasm developing into the baby, the child, the young man, the old man. So from that protoplasm up to the most perfect man, we get one continuous life, one chain. This is evolution. But we have seen such that each evolution presupposes an evolution. Here we are seeing what is talked about the evolution in earlier speeches. He is bringing that same concept. Also, the concept of complete cycle. The seed, from the seed comes the tree, and again the tree goes back to the seed. Same. So, this, as Swamiji is saying, the whole of this life which slowly manifests itself evolves from the protoplasm of the perfected human being, the incarnation of God on earth. The whole of this series is but one life, and the whole of this manifestation must have been involved in that very protoplasm. This whole life, this very God on earth, was involved in it and slowly came out, manifesting itself slowly. The highest expression must have been there in the germ state in minute form. Therefore, this one force, this whole chain, is the involution of that cosmic life which is everywhere. It is this one mass of intelligence which, from the protoplasm up to the most perfected man, is slowly uncoiling itself. Not that it grows. Take off all ideas of growth from your mind. With the idea of growth is associated with something coming from outside, something extraneous, which would give lie to the truth that the infinite which lies latent in every life is independent of all external conditions. It can never grow. It was always there and only manifests itself. This is the interesting aspect. Definitely is this the cause of manifested. There is no essential difference between the effect and the cause. Swami is giving example, beautiful example. Take this glass for instance. There was a material, and the material plus the will of the manufacturer made the glass, and these two were its causes and are present in it. In what form is this will present? As adhesion. If the force were not here, each particle would fall away. What is the effect then? It is the same as the cause, only taking different form, a different composition. When the cause is changed and limited for a time, it becomes the effect. We must remember this. Applying it to our idea of the life, whole of the manifestation of this one series, from the protoplasm up to the most perfect man, must be the very same thing as cosmic life. First it got involved and became finer, and out of that fine something which we wait, the cause, it has gone on evolving, manifesting itself and becoming grosser. But the question of immortality is not yet settled. We have seen that everything in this universe is indestructible. There is nothing new. There will be nothing new. The same series of manifestations are presenting themselves alternately like a wheel coming up and going down. All motion in this universe is in the form of waves, successively rising and falling. Systems after systems are coming out of the fine forms, evolving themselves and taking grosser forms, again melting down as it were and going back to the fine forms. Again they rise out of that, evolving for a certain period of and slowly going back to the cause. So with all the life. Each manifestation of life is coming up and going back again. What goes down? The form. The form breaks to pieces, but it comes up again. In the sense, bodies and forms are eternal. How? Suppose you take a number of dice and throws them, and they fall in this ratio. 6, 5, 3, 4. You take the dice up and throw them again and again. There must be a time when the same numbers will come again. The same combination must come. Now each particle, each atom that is in this universe, I take for such a dice, and they are being thrown and combined again and again. All these forms become before you are one combination. Here are the forms of a glass, a table, a pitcher of water, and so forth. This is one combination. In time, it will be break, all break. But there must come a time when exactly the same combination comes again, when you will be there and this form will be there, this subject will be talked and this picture will be here. An infinite number of times this has been, an infinite number of times this will be repeated. Thus far with the physical forms. What we find? That even the combination of physical form is eternally repeated. A most interesting conclusion that follows from the theory of this explanation of facts such as these. Some of you, perhaps, have seen a man who can read the past life of others and foretell the future. How is it possible for anyone to see what the future will be unless there is a regulated future? Effects of the past will recur in the future, and you see that it is so. You have seen the big Ferris wheel in Chicago. Some is giving example which were there and prominent in those days. He is saying the wheel revolves and the little rooms in the wheel are regularly coming one after the another. One set of persons gets into this, and after they have gone round the circle, they get out, and a fresh batch of people gets in. Each one of these batches is like one of these manifestations, from the lowest animals to the highest man. Nature is like the chain of Ferris wheel, endless and infinite, and these little carriages are the bodies or forms in which fresh batches of souls are riding, going up higher and higher until they become perfect and come out of the wheel. But the wheel goes on, and so long as the bodies are in the wheel, it can be absolutely and mathematically foretold where they will go, but not so of the souls. Thus, it is possible to read the past and future of nature with precision. We see then that there is recurrence of the same material phenomena at certain periods, and that the same combination have been taking place through eternity. But that is not the immortality of the soul. No force can die, no matter can be annihilated. What becomes of it? It goes on changing, backwards and forwards until it turns into the source from which it has come. There is no motion in a straight line. Everything moves in a circle. A straight line indefinitely produced becomes a circle. If that is the case, there cannot be eternal degeneration for any soul. It cannot be. Everything must complete the circle and come back to the source. So, what are you and I and all these souls? In our discussion of evolution and involution, we have seen that you and I must be part of the cosmic consciousness, cosmic life, cosmic mind, which got involved, and we must complete the circle and go back to this cosmic intelligence, which is God. This cosmic intelligence is what people call Lord, or God, or Christ, or Buddha, or Brahman, what the materialists perceive as force, and the agnostics as that are infinite, inexpressible beyond, and we are all parts of that. This is the second idea. Yet this is not sufficient. There will be still more doubts. It is very good to say that there is no destruction of any force, but all the forces and forms that we see are combinations. This form before us is a composition of several component parts, and so every force that we see is similarly composite. If you take the scientific idea of force and call it the sum total, the resultant of several forces, what becomes of your individuality? Everything that is compound must sooner or later go back to its component parts. Whatever in this universe is the result of the combination of matter or force must sooner or later go back to its components. So whatever is the result of certain causes must die, must be destroyed. It gets broken up, dispersed and resolved back into its own components. Soul is not a force, neither is this thought. It is the manufacturer of thought, but not thought itself. It is the manufacturer of the body, but not the body. Why so? We see that the body cannot be the soul. Why not? Because it is not intelligent. A corpse is not intelligent, nor a piece of meat in butcher's shop. What do we mean by intelligence? A reactive power. We want to go a little more deeply into this. Somebody is saying, he is giving example. Here is the picture. I see it. Yet there is no revision, no vision. What the physiologists call the sensory nerves carry this impression inwards, but up to this there is no reaction. The nerve center in the brain carries the impression of the mind to the mind, and the mind reacts, and as this reaction comes, the picture flashes before us. Take a more commonplace example. Somebody is saying, suppose you are listening to me intently, and a mosquito is sitting on the tip of your nose and giving you that pleasant sensation which mosquitoes can give, but you are so intent on hearing me that you do not feel the mosquito at all. What does this happen? The mosquito has bitten a certain part of the skin and certain nerves are there. They have carried a certain sensation to the brain and the impression is there. But the mind, being otherwise occupied, does not react. So you are not aware of the presence of the mosquito. When a new impression comes, if the mind does not react, we shall not be conscious of it. But when the reaction comes, we feel, we see, we hear and so forth. With this reaction comes illumination, as given in the Samkhya philosophers and scholar. We see that the body cannot illuminate because in the absence of attention, no sensation is possible. Cases have been known here where, under peculiar conditions, a man who had never learnt a particular language was found to able to speak it. Subsequent inquiries proved that the man had, when a child, lived among people who spoke that language and the impressions were left in its brain. These impressions remained stored up until through some cause the mind reacted. And illumination came, and then the man was able to speak the language. This shows that the mind alone is not sufficient, that the mind itself is an instrument in the hands of someone. In the case of that boy, the mind contained that language, yet he did not know it. But later there came a time when he did it. It shows that there is someone besides the mind, and when the boy was a baby, that someone did not use the power. But when the boy grew up, he took advantage of it and used it. First is the body, second the mind or instrument of thought, and third, behind this mind is the self or the man. The Sanskrit word is Atman. As modern philosophers have identified thought with molecular changes in the brain, they do not know how to explain such a case, and they generally deny it. The mind is intimately connected with the brain, which dies every time the body changes. The self is the illuminator, and the mind is the instrument in its hands, and through that instrument it gets hold of the external instrument, and thus comes the perception. Swami is giving the complete cycle to understand the creation and the immortality, how it is coming through that. The external instruments get hold of the impressions and carry them to the organs, Swami is saying. For you must remember always that the eyes and the ears are only receivers. It is the internal organs, the brain centers, which act. In Sanskrit, these centers are called indriyas, and they carry sensations to the mind, and the mind presents them further back to the another state of the mind, which in Sanskrit is called chitta. And there they are organized into wheel, and all these present them to the king of kings inside, the ruler on his throne. The self of man, the Atman. He then sees and gives his orders, then the mind immediately acts on the organs and the organs of the external body. The real perceiver, the real ruler, the real governor, the creator, the manipulator of all this is the self of man. So Swami is saying, we see then that the self of man is not body, neither it is thought. It cannot be a compound. Why not? Because everything that is a compound can be seen or imagined. That which we cannot imagine or perceive, which we cannot bind together, is not force or matter, cause or effect, and cannot be a compound. The domain of compounds is only so far as our mental universe, our thought universe extends. Beyond this, it does not hold good. It is as far as the law reigns, and if there is anything beyond law, it cannot be a compound at all. The self of man, being beyond the law of causation, is not a compound. It is ever free and is the ruler of everything that is within the law. It will never die, because death means going back to the component parts, and that which has never a compound can never die. It is sheer nonsense to say it dies. Swami is saying, so we are now retreading on finer and finer ground, and some of you perhaps will be frightened. We have seen that this self, being beyond the little universe of matter and force and thought, is simple, and as is simple, it cannot die. That which does not die cannot live, for life and death are the obverse and reverse of the same kind. Life is another name of death, and death for life. One particular mode of manifestation is what we call life, another particular mode of manifestation of the same thing is what we call death. Very beautifully explaining. When the wave rises up, on the top of it is life, and when it falls into the hollow, it is death. If anything is beyond death, we naturally see it also must be beyond life. I must remind you of the first conclusion, that the soul of man is part of the cosmic energy that exists, which is God. We now find that is beyond life and death. You were never born and will never die. What is this birth and death that we see around us? This belongs to the body only, because the soul is omnipresent. I quote, how can that be, you may ask? Answer, so many people are sitting here and you say the soul is omnipresent. What is there? I ask, to limit anything that is beyond law, beyond causation. This glass is limited. It is not omnipresent because the surrounding matter forces it to take that form, does not allow it to expand. It is conditioned by everything around it and is therefore limited. But that which is beyond law, where there is nothing to act upon, how can that be limited? It must be omnipresent. You are everywhere in this universe. How is it then that I am born and I am going to die and all that? That is the talk of the ignorance, hallucination of the brain. Yet you are neither born nor will you die. You have had neither birth nor will have rebirth, nor life, nor incarnation, nor anything. What do you mean by coming and going? All shallow nonsense. You are everywhere. Then what is this coming and going? It is a hallucination produced by the change of this fine body, which you call the mind. That is going on. Just a little speck of cloud passing before the sky. As it moves on, it may create the delusion that the keys moves. Sky is moving. Sometimes you see a cloud moving before the moon and you think that the moon is moving. So, how could there be mortality when there is no birth? This is the question, and it is arrant nonsense. One step more we'll have to come to the logical conclusion. There is no halfway house. You are metaphysicians, and there is no crying quarter. If then we are beyond all law, we must be omniscient, ever blessed, all knowledge must be in us, and all power and blessedness. Certainly, you are the omniscient, omnipresent being of the universe. But of such things can there be many? Can there be 100,000 millions of omnipresent beings? Certainly not. Then what becomes us all? You are only one. There is only one such self, and that one self is you. Standing behind this little nature is what we call the soul. There is only one being, one existence. They were blessed, the omnipresent, the omniscient, the birthless, deathless. I quote, through his control the sky expands, through his control the air breathes, through his control the sun shines, and through his control all lie asleep. He is the reality nature, is the soul of your soul. Nay, more, you are he, you are one with him. Unquote. Wherever there are two, there is a fear, there is danger, there is conflict, there is strife. When it is all one, who is there to hate? Who is there to struggle with? When it is all he with whom we can fight. This explains the true nature of life. This explains the true nature of being. This is a perfection, and this is God. As long as you see the many, you are under the delusion. In this world of many, he who sees the one, or in this ever-changing world, he who sees him who never changes, as the soul of his own soul, as his own self. He is free, he is blessed, he has reached the goal. Wonderfully, Swamiji is saying this and explaining that concept. Therefore, know that thou art he. Thou art the God of this universe. Tat Tamasi. So Tat Tamasi means thou art thee. All these various ideas that I am a man or woman, or you are sick or healthy, or strong or weak, or that I hate or I love, or have a little power, are but hallucinations. Away with them, what makes you weak? What makes you fear? You are the one being in the universe. What frightens you? Stand up then and be free. Know that every thought and word that weakens you in this world is the only evil that exists. Whatever makes men weak and fear is the only evil that should be shunned. What can frighten you? If the suns come down and the moons crumble into dust and systems after systems are hurled into annihilations, what is it that you stand as a rock? You are indestructible. You are the self, the God of the universe. Say, I quote, I am existence absolute, bliss absolute, knowledge absolute. I am he. Satchidananda Swarupam Shivam Shivam. And like a lion breaking its cage, break your chain and be free forever. What frightens you? What holds you down? Only ignorance and delusion. Nothing else can bind you. You are the pure one, the ever blessed. Swamiji, through this talk on immortality, is bringing out the best of the possible human being can think and perceive through our senses. And now he's finishing the talk. He's saying very beautifully, silly fools tell you that you are sinners, and you sit down in a corner and weep. It is foolishness, wickedness, downright rascality to say that you are sinners. You are all God. See how positively Swamiji started telling us. You are not a sinner, you are God. See what you not God and call him man? Therefore, if you dare, stand on that. Mold your whole life on that. If a man cuts your throat, do not say no, for you are cutting down your own throat. When you help a poor man, do not feel the least pride. That is a worship for you and not the cause of pride. Is not the whole universe you? Where is there anyone that is not you? You are the soul of this universe. You are the sun, moon and the stars. It is in that you are shining everywhere. The whole universe is you. Whom are you going to hate or to fight or love or hate? Know then that thou art he, and model your whole life accordingly. And he who knows this and models his life accordingly will no longer grovel in the darkness. This wonderfully Swamiji is telling and giving us the clear-cut path and directions that what we should do. And any doubtful mind who has got issues, problems and questions, if they again and again read Swamiji's these talks, part of the Jnanyoga, and applies their mind, so-called the timid mind, I am sure they'll come out of these things and will be realizing the immortality. Great Swamijis, great words to the humanity, and saying that, as it is saying, last sentences he is saying, silly fools tells you that you are sinners and you sit down in one corner and weep. It is foolishness, wickedness, downright rascality to say that you are sinners. You are all God. Yes, we are all God. That's what Swamiji is giving his message loud and clear. We must follow that. We must follow. Our humble salutations to Swamiji again. Hari Om Tat Sat.